So I think especially the AI disruption, a lot of companies can be left behind if they don't implement that right away. If they say in a pitch that they don't implement AI or have not thought about it, then you're already 1 point behind compared to all the others. So I think that's definitely one that there's next to that also so much competition, like other companies setting up faster, building
Mhm.
companies faster. So I think in that way, it's becoming a lot harder for companies to also, go to the clients that they want, tell to the customers like what makes them unique next to all the 10 other companies that just rising up because of AI.
Welcome to Women Disrupting Tech. My name is Dirk Jan Hupkes, and on this podcast I give the women who work in tech the platform they need to inspire and empower each other. Join me on a journey into the world of entrepreneurship, funding, biases and role models to discover the strategies for success in the tech industry. In other words, how women can disrupt tech. Are you ready to listen? Hey, welcome back to Women Disrupting Tech, and thank you for listening to episode 94. My guest today is Michelle Ter Laak. She's a venture capital investor at Arches Capital, and she'll share her journey from being fascinated by entrepreneurship and innovation in high school to becoming a VC investor. By listening, you'll discover that venture capital isn't a closed boys club. In fact, it's a space where women with curiosity, bold ideas, and strong networks can make a real difference. We'll also discuss some of the trends that are shaping the future of startups, like AI, like cybersecurity, and the changing funding climate. Plus, we'll dive into the role of diversity in investing, why having more women in VC matters, and how we can create more opportunities for female founders and investors. Whether you're a founder, an aspiring investor, or just curious how VC works, Michelle and I hope that this conversation gives you the insights and confidence that you need to take the next step. So, when you're ready to listen and learn how to build and fund the future of venture capital, please welcome to Women Disrupting Tech, Michelle Ter Laak. Michelle, good morning. Good to
Good
have
morning.
you. A question I always ask at the start is how you got into your current job or current position.
Yes, very good morning. Thank you for being here. So how I got in this current position, I'm an analyst at Arches Capital. Maybe to go a bit back to my high school years, where I was always very interested in innovation, entrepreneurship, business models, technology, everything around that. And as an extracurricular, I could do a master class in entrepreneurship at the University of Twente, which is where I'm from in that area of the Netherlands.
Mhm.
So everything around the word entrepreneurship always excited me already. There was something unknown about it, something challenging, something exciting. So after that masterclass, I was very excited to do anything within that world. And that's why I
Mhm.
chose to study international business at the Erasmus University in Rotterdam. So I went to a bigger city with more opportunities, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So when I already looked beforehand, when I made the big move to Rotterdam, I already saw the university offered so many extra things I could do, so many student organizations, so many cool things that I at least didn't see in my high school years. So, or at least I wasn't aware of these things.
Uh-huh.
So the first thing that caught my eye was the Erasmus Center of Entrepreneurship, a student organization focusing on everything around entrepreneurship, informing students on the campus and organizing business games, hackathons, conferences, etc. So I did a
Mhm.
committee over there, I did a board here, which was really awesome people, exciting times, and allowed me to do a lot of other things next to my studies, actually.
Okay,
So
cool. Yeah.
from that, actually, throughout my bachelor's, I decided to do a master's in finance. So that was sort of a good base, I thought, because I was like, I can do so many kinds of masters. What do I actually do? Because I wanted to do it all. And I was like, let's do master's in finance because that's good as a try as a basis. And I probably need it in any path I maybe choose. So a master's is only like 9 months, sort of. So in my opinion, you can't really learn that much.
Mhm.
So I did an internship at Accenture. I graduated over there throughout my master's. Accenture is a consulting firm.
Yeah.
I graduated within their financial services department. And because I thought everyone around me is going into consulting, maybe it's a good way to start. And when I was finished after that internship, I was like, this is really not something for me. It's actually the impact you can make over there is very little, in my opinion. So you're working at a firm for another firm doing a project,
Yeah.
and you get something that you have to do. There's not really a lot of movement in there. So I was like, okay, this is not for me, maybe for a lot of others, but let's look at something else.
Hmm.
But I was graduate at that time. So I was like, okay, what do I do? So I circled back to the entrepreneurial world, look at the options that were there. And that's why I interned at an impact VC in Amsterdam, making investments in the impact space. And that's what I really liked. From the start of the internship, I already knew I didn't have a spot to stay there. So I knew that throughout my internship, I had to look for jobs because I was graduated and I didn't have anything else afterwards. So at that time, throughout the internship at the Impact VC, I already looked for jobs worldwide, basically, because I was like, well, if I have the world to, as my search, it's probably going to be easier.
Hmm.
So at that couple months in, my internship ended, and I was still looking for jobs worldwide within the impact scene, because I was like, okay, if I have the world and I have that impact, then I sort of have a choice, and it's sort of niche. But it
Hmm.
was a lot more difficult than I thought, actually. So I had some interviews, a lot of talks and conversations. But at some point, I realized that the company needs an extra reason to hire you all the way from the Netherlands, rather than having someone hire from that same country with the same experience and everything else.
Yeah.
So I realized that wasn't what was going to happen, or at least not at a time, because I also just wanted to work. So I was like, I can try for another 6 months, but I just want to go to work. After my internship, I already got a temporary full-time job to pay my rent and everything else. I continued looking for jobs, and at some point decided to look in the Netherlands. And I was like, well, that's just a lot more convenient. But then, of course, I knew, okay, where am I going to look? I knew the entire ecosystem from the VC world. So I knew several firms already. And it was just sort of waiting for a position to open as well.
Yeah.
So I also looked at investment banking, consulting. Maybe I should start just somewhere, so at least can work and start gaining experience. But it's when I found Arches, had a position open, and eventually landed here, and that's where we're at right now.
Okay. And before that, the previous VC was Rubio.
Yeah,
If
they
I'm,
were the
yeah.
impact ventures.
Okay. So just going back to your passion for innovation and entrepreneurship, where does it come from?
Yeah, good question. I think for me, like I said, there was always something unknown about the word. There's something exciting, like it's something more difficult. You have to sort of, make put the puzzle pieces together in a way.
Hmm.
And I think that industry really excites me because so many things are yet to be decided in the future.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I really want to go in and try to improve or figure out. So I think that especially. And I think next to that, I always wanted to set up something myself, but I could never really figure out a good solution to a problem that I wanted to solve. So I was like, well, if I at least help out everyone that has these cool solutions to these problems, I'm at least
Hmm.
in the industry and get to contribute to something that other people are working on.
Okay. Do you see yourself transition to a startup at some point?
Maybe one day. I'm not sure if I ever believe in a certain solution that much, because I'm also in that way sort of perfectionistic, that I really not sure. There's so much competition. There's never good enough. Those kind of things. So depends. I think I would love to, but it really depends on the road.
Okay. So what makes what would make a good business case or use case to you?
I think, in my opinion, really solving like a need to have. So solving a real world problem,
Hmm.
rather than making something more efficient. So really, solving something in that way that you really have the numbers to see. Look, okay, where do you solve that issue, and how looks that? So that.
Okay. And will that be in a specific sector like health or impact or?
I don't know. I've always really been intrigued by longevity, but also in the general health tech space. But there's also so much according to food, so much science behind that. Uh, General software where I'm in right now.
Hmm.
So many things that excite me. So not sure at the moment.
Okay. Um, so Another question I had was around you went ultimately decided to go into VC. Um, why VC and not traditional finance like private equity or so?
Yeah, yeah. I think definitely a lot of people around me throughout my master's, they indeed went to general finance, traditional finance, accountings, etc. I think what always really liked me in general, so I really love the entire world of entrepreneurship, and I think next to that, venture capital is really people driven. So it's just everything is about relationships and connecting people in that way.
Mhm.
And of course, the numbers they really do matter. There are financial models. There are a lot of other things that are data. But I think it's really a mix about having these people and combining those, and then having an analysis on the back that
Okay.
really
So
challenged me.
so it's a bit like curiosity plus complexity.
Yeah, I would say as
Okay.
well. Yeah,
Okay.
so something that really challenged me more, in my opinion, at least.
Okay. Well, yeah. I think I meet a lot of people from the ecosystem who are there for the complexity
Yeah, for the chaos as
and
well. I think as well, like at least my job, we're also a smaller team. It's like super chaotic, but I love that as well. So I'm doing everything at the same time, which is also not always easy, but I think it really excites me to do it.
how do you safeguard productivity then?
Yeah, personally, you mean
Yeah.
productivity? Yeah, no, it's a difficult topic still. So I think now 1 year and 3 months on my current job, and it's indeed quite a difficult thing that I still have to figure out, honestly. So there are some tools I can use, or some, one to-do list and those kind of things, but it is difficult because if you have to do something, you have to finish it right now, and other things will be falling down the line.
Yeah.
So yeah, still figuring it out.
Okay. So okay, that's maybe for next episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So you're in the software space,
Yep.
B2B mostly. What are things or trends that you think are interesting or like really, yeah, solving real world problems right now there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think B2B software is quite broad.
Yeah.
We're also as Archers invest agnostically in this field, so we see a lot of the things. And I think the space in general is evolving very rapidly, which I think is good and bad in both ways. I think for sure artificial intelligence, which is
Hmm.
very clear. So that makes it really easy to make software, to create it, to publish your own anything else that you can do. And I think we might be very dependent on AI in that way as well. There's a lot of things about privacy bias with AI. And I think as well, a lot of data that we don't have yet to train all the models that we're creating.
Hmm.
And next to all these things that are happening, we see therefore so many AI solutions. We get so many pitch decks and it's quite a bit difficult to see like which ones are then unique, which ones are thin and which ones really solve something, and
Hmm.
what is different than from the other. So it's really some trends that we see a couple of the same startups and then something else again. So I think that makes it quite difficult to really get the ones out of the amount that we see.
Yeah. So AI is one trend.
Yeah, I think next to that as well with the cyber attacks, the last few years,
Uh-huh.
months, cybersecurity I think is a very big priority as well, where we see
Yeah.
definitely some startups coming in. Um, Next to that, also there's so many solutions like SaaS solutions, software solutions that are offered to companies that we of course also see.
Hmm.
So companies have this like huge bulk of tools they can use, and I think that's sort of a very difficult way of working as well. To know which tools do you choose, and where do you pick from.
Hmm.
I think that's what a lot of companies also trying to shift to other platforms, to other solutions, but have a difficulty in that. I
Hmm.
think we at Arches, like I said, we invest agnostically, so we don't really focus on any specific trend at the moment.
Yeah.
We really focus on founders that add the value and that really solve a problem that there is out there, like a tangible problem,
Hmm.
that also in that way serve a long-term impact on the industry.
Okay. So how do you validate that long-term impact?
Yeah, I think It's really asking the questions to the founders. Like you also, like I said, as a people business, you also feel if a founder is like sort of really has the problem close to its heart, has validated with data, has had many talks. And I think there's a big difference in a lot of people trying to solve an issue or setting up a company without trying to solve an issue,
Hmm.
and people that are setting up a company but really solve an issue. And I think both are fine. Like you don't always have to have a problem on the back. You can build a great company in a proven industry and make something better. But we are really looking for the ones that solve this issue that is really data driven and
Yeah.
that you can see on the back.
So if a founder comes to you, he better bring the data.
Yeah. At least I'm always asking. And we invest very early, so it's super difficult to see if there's already something. But like we've
Yeah.
seen definitely a lot of founders having 50 talks with a type of customer or a potential customer, and I think that's already something. You know, you can go to your next neighbor, or if you're a restaurant, you can walk to your next restaurant and ask and see how the processes go. I think those things are always be able to be done in the early stages.
Yeah. So I was wondering about one thing. So you do software.
Yeah.
What makes hardware so difficult to do?
Um, yeah.
Or software plus hardware. I was
Yeah.
having a chat with Esther Bisschop about that, and also with Sophie Eijenberg about that. So I was wondering what your views were.
Yeah, a really good question. I think we have done some investments with our hardware and software, but then the
Mm,
hardware is off the shelf. So it's not made inside, so it's just bought, and that's sort of then easier. I
mm,
think what we say, and I'm only like a 1 year, 3 months in this industry of
yeah.
specifically software, is that we said that hardware is just, we don't have the knowledge behind that. So I think
Okay.
it's just that we have the expertise in that software space plus a bit of off the shelf hardware,
Yeah.
and that's where we are good at. So therefore, we don't try to combine these things. And I think hardware has very different cycles. It's so different than only software. So therefore, we keep what we're good at actually.
Okay. Cool. So we just talked a bit about trends in B2B SaaS. What are the risks for B2B SaaS companies? Because I can imagine that, for instance, AI is a huge disruptor.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think especially the AI disruption, a lot of companies can be left behind if they don't implement that right away. If they say in a pitch that they don't implement AI or if not thought about it, then you're already 1 point behind compared to all the others. So I think that's definitely one that there's next to that also so much competition, like other companies setting up faster, building
Hmm.
companies faster. So I think in that way, it's becoming a lot harder for companies to also, look go to the clients that they want, go to the see tell to the customers like what makes them unique,
Hmm.
next to all the 10 other companies that just rising up because of AI. So I think that's making it a lot more difficult to get that traction for some companies,
Hmm.
and which also is more expensive to really get to those customers
Is
probably.
it also that customers can now with AI do it themselves?
It could be. Depends on the company, of course, but there are
Yeah.
indeed so many tools that you can easily set up an AI agent yourself, do those things, and it depends a lot. Like, hey, do you want to put that effort into it, or do you just rather pay 20 euros
Yeah.
and get it off the shelf, which is, I think, a valid reason. But no, it's definitely true. If you have the time, so many people can do the same thing. That's what a lot of companies do internally as well. They either build things internal because it's easier, cheaper, you have the solutions, and maybe less things are bought, so that's a thing that might be coming as well, next to, I think, overall funding challenges for companies in general,
Hmm.
that we've seen in the past years as well, especially coming from COVID, that it's maybe a lot more difficult because there's also so much more competition
Yeah.
to get the funding out of there. So yeah.
So there's funding, there's competition, and there's AI as
AI,
the overall disruptor.
probably a lot more, but I think, yeah,
Yeah,
that's at
but
least my perspective. Yeah.
okay. So do you see, because you also invest in cyber, how do you see cyber as a sort of enabler for AI?
I think can be a really good start in terms of just the security in general.
Yeah.
So there are many indeed solutions helping out with that, needed for that. pushing businesses to also strengthen their overall defense in that way.
Oh,
So yeah, I think because of that.
okay, cool. So let's move to Arches,
Yeah.
to the company, because what I read on the website, I think, is that you see a gap between quote unquote traditional and modern VC. And maybe for context, let's start with what traditional versus modern is.
Yeah, valid question. I think what we see as traditional is large funds with a lot of distance between portfolio and the management team,
Hmm.
a bit more longer decision making, focus on financial returns, probably a bit other staged. That's what we see traditional VC, and
Hmm.
how we view modern VC as Arches is one that is a lot more engaged, offering mentorship, closer to the founders, having this founder friendly and founder first approach,
Hmm.
which allows also for faster decision making with a lot of the expertise that we, in our case, have from angels. So that's the
Okay.
difference. Yeah.
What I hear you say is that you also work with angels.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
maybe give a bit of context around what Arches then
yeah.
how it works.
Definitely. So we are an early stage B2B software investor in the Benelux, and we have an
Hmm.
investment team of 6. And next
Hmm.
to that, we have 100 B2B software angels. So they either set up their own companies in that space or are still working on other cool projects and help us out with validating, but also with investing in that space.
Yeah.
So early on in the process, when we as an investment team saw several startups, we get several of the angels in that expertise and look at it and see what they think, what do they see of some recent valid points, red flags that we maybe haven't come up with.
Hmm.
And from that expertise and that early on engagement with the angels, we continue, if it's positive, to go to the bigger group of angels. So we
Hmm.
have a monthly meeting every month where we invite all the angels and 3 to 4 startups that we have seen in the month to pitch. And that
Hmm.
way we can immediately see like, hey, is it a good match between the founder, between our VC and our angel group, and do we see a lot of enough validation to continue with this investment? And I think
Okay.
in that way, and afterwards, after we invested, this angel group also ties really close to the investments. So one of the angels will be really close on the startup as our portfolio company, and is then able to really give that mentorship and really close founder first approach in our way.
Okay. So it's really a community effort then.
Yeah, it is. So I think that's also, I think from 2018 onwards or something, we
Hmm.
grew from 20 to 100 angels, and I think it's really trying to make that community and to make that group work and to moderate that effectively.
Yeah.
And I think we can always improve on that because there's so many great minds and ideas that there are, and everyone can actually help out on so many ideas. But you can't have like 20 angels go to one startup without everyone shouting of what to do because there are also different opinions and different ideas. So we
Yeah.
really try to moderate that as well, which is quite interesting, but also super cool to work with so many of these the great minds actually.
Yeah. How do you then link the, well, quote unquote, right angel to the right startup? How do
Yeah,
you, what's the magic behind that?
yeah. So it's really talking, feeling like, hey, what does the startup need in that phase? Where is the problems at? Where did the startup needs to go in the coming months? And which angel is best to help out and also wants to help out.
Yeah.
So a small group of angel invest in a startup. So it's not that we invest collectively with the 100 angels. So let's say around 15 to 20 angels choose to invest in a startup. And from that group, we choose like, hey, who is the one that's really, be able to help out, has the time to be with this one, to be with this startup. And of course, it has to be a match between both sides. So
Yeah.
it really a lot of talking and seeing where they get. And of course, maybe after 2 years, the person might be not in the right phase of the startup to help out. So we always look critically at that point, like, hey, where do we add value with other people maybe to continue to contribute with our group?
Okay. Do you also then have sort of, I'm thinking out loud now,
Yeah.
sort of trajectory that where you actually plot those angels is sequentially onto as a mentor onto the startups?
No, we don't. But honestly, it's quite a good idea, right? To
Yeah.
also critically keep on looking like, hey, is this still a good fit? So we don't do it yet, but I'll take the suggestion with me.
Okay, well, good. Well, then at least I've contributed something useful
For sure,
today.
definitely.
Hey, you have a pretty diverse team of 6 that does the probably the initial screening and then the let's say relationship management.
Yeah.
How does that impact the selections that you make and the deals you do?
Yeah, yeah. So we have three females and three men in our team,
Yeah.
and I think overall, it's been said that more diverse perspective, get more diverse decision or better decision making, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's for sure a good thing in our team. I think I joined so last January, and I think by having more, an equal amount on the team, I think it definitely helped. Especially, I'm seeing the ones in the very first steps. So I
Hmm.
think it's always better to have sort of a diverse background in that. For some people only want to reach out to a female they feel better at, for example. That could better definitely be the case. So I'm not saying that I attract only female founders, but I think that might definitely be the case by going to several events that are only focused on females, that you meet other female founders, and in that way sort of also show that Arches is, as a software and a tech investor, open to all backgrounds.
Yeah. Do you see also that the fact that you're a woman that you attract more female founders?
Yeah, I've thought about this as well myself. I'm not sure per se. I think, of course, I hope to. I hope I can. People see me as approachable as a
Mm.
female investor. So I think as a female founder, I would honestly be more keen towards talking to a female investor than maybe a male investor if you
Mm.
are at a certain type of event and it's just easier to reach out to. So
Yeah.
that's where I do hope so. I'm not sure regarding. I don't have the numbers if that's indeed true, but I honestly hope so. Yeah.
Okay. So does it also the fact that you have a diverse team help you do your own work better? That you
Yeah.
have a role, maybe a role model inside the company, that you have a mentor inside the company, that you can talk about challenges.
Yeah, no, I think definitely. So, not saying that I can't talk to my male colleagues, but
No.
I think it's definitely nice to have this combination, because you just have different conversations with your male colleagues and your female colleagues. So I think that really at least helps me to work more closely with everyone in the team, but also indeed my female colleagues to look at them as how they're doing the job, because they're older than me, to see them as
Mm.
examples of how I can do the work myself, or to how to build my path as well.
Mm.
And there's Women in VC Summit every year or at least I've done it for 4 times now in Paris. They gather like 400 women in VC, or everybody that
Yeah.
wants to. So only females are allowed. So my male colleagues are like, oh, so why can't I go? And so I go
It's a
there
bit
with
of
my.
FOMO then all of a sudden.
It is, right, because it's also super cool, the event. There's so many awesome women coming there, and I
Yeah.
think so. I go there with my female colleague, and I think that's also awesome to bond and to gain other perspectives. So I think those perks we have as well,
Yeah.
and then we should take them with us.
Do you think it's necessary for women to fund women? So to have this specific women in VC funding female founders?
I think it's good that there are people doing that specifically.
Huh?
I'm not per se saying that it's the best idea. I think we've had a conversation earlier, right? That you
Yeah.
sort of need the extreme to come to a sort of balance in the middle. So I
Yeah.
think that might be the case. So in my opinion, I really believe more in funding everyone. But I think it's definitely good that those people are there, because it indeed increases the funding, I guess, for female founders
Yeah.
and by female investors. Because so many people, like in our angel syndicate, we have not enough female angels. So I think, but there are definitely some. So I think, but some just don't know about being an angel or investing in general. So I think that concept maybe increase it as well.
Yeah. So how do we improve the let's say the awareness of the possibility to be a female angel?
Yeah, very good question. I thought about it as well. We have organized, for example, in our Angel Syndicate, we have asked our male investors to bring a female, and it's for a lot of male very difficult because they've never seen a female investor. They have no idea, they have no idea that there's someone right next to them that can do that, or they've never seen that example. So I think it's good to try and to do these things more, to
Yeah.
engage more females, even though they don't know about the world of investing. So we have a couple of female angels. We're trying to do more with them to really, increase that group, and also in combination of our, male and female syndicate, especially.
Yeah.
So many more things that we can people make aware of.
Yeah, but what I'm also hearing you say is that it's again around role models.
Yeah, no, definitely, I guess, though, because if you don't know that it exists, then it can, who do you need
Yeah,
to
but also
look
for
to?
the men.
For sure. Yeah. No, it's neat, definitely. So I think that exposure to the men, that there are those female angels that do the work, allows them to have this perspective that it can happen. It's not weird that so I think that's definitely needed, and I think it's definitely, compared to where we came from, it increased as well, and with a lot of female angels investing in female founders, indeed. Like the competition that we had a couple months ago, where you were as well. Such a large group of female investors and angels, and everyone around interested.
Yeah, yeah, that was Femstart. Yeah, they did a terrific job getting a lot of
A lot
women
of people.
out there.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
So you've been in VC for 15 months or so. What has been your biggest learning so far?
I think honestly, overall, I realized that many people have no idea what VC is, so what venture capital is, what investing in startups is.
Uh-huh.
They have no idea what our work looks like. Like, do you just give money and that's it? Like,
Yeah.
so that's, I think, really interesting to see that you're also sort of in a bubble, and you see so many funding news and so many things happening. You think it's like the thing. So I realized that from a general perspective, but also from a founder's perspective, from like the early stages, that a lot of people have sometimes no idea what venture capital is about. There's sort of a big knowledge gap between people that are going to raise their first fund, and that's of course okay, because everything is being taught, in the first time, or you look up on the internet, etc.
Yeah.
So I think I did a workshop a couple months ago where you were as well,
Yeah.
to a group of female founders and everyone interested. And I was talking about exits, and someone was asking me like, but I don't want to exit my company,
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you don't have to exit your company, we exit you, and you just go on with the business. So,
Yeah.
and that realized me that indeed so many things are unknown to the other side of the table, actually, which is completely fine. But I think, that's what I realized over the years and months, and maybe more related to Arches
Mhm.
and to the general work, is that because we invest so early, a lot of things are unknown. So we don't know
Yeah.
if it's going to work out. We don't know if there's a product market fit. So that information is sort of, imperfect.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of uncertainty around a deal sometimes. And I think the only way to go about that is to really embrace the uncertainty and to move on, to have all the opinions on the table and discuss what everyone thinks, and to get as much as data as possible to contribute to that opinion, and to then make the best decision that's possible. But I've realized that that's quite difficult. You're not always sure, but you need to make the best thing possible with everything that there is and that you can find.
Yeah. So how does having a diverse team help in that, getting all those opinions onto the table?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a lot of different opinions. I'm not per se sure if that's because the different backgrounds, or the being a female or a male, but I think it definitely helps that we just have different backgrounds, look at things differently, maybe because we're a female or a male. I think that definitely helps to have these multiple perspectives, and then to also discuss that. And I think some people have a more harsh opinion than others, or want to push that through. But I think it's very good to put everything on the table and to look at then the data that's on the back to make the best decision.
So I recently spoke to a couple of other women in VC, and I think it was Sophie Heijenberg who mentioned that many women see VC and see the startup ecosystem as a boys' club. where you need the right connections, and if you don't have those, you're basically screwed. Um, so you have a bit of experience in that world now. What would you say to change people's mind about that?
Yeah. Um, I think it's quite, that people have that idea is, it could definitely be the end. Not sure if I completely agree, but maybe I'm also really
Mm,
much in it that I sort of not see it anymore. I think there's this documentary on VC of like the early how it started. I think it's called something ventured, and
mm,
there's only males in there, like male investors, male
yeah.
founders. So that indeed I understand that people have that perspective and see that in that way. I think overall, my opinion would really be to talk to the ones within VCs that you like, may that be a female or male. So you don't have to always send your mail to info. You can always reach out to someone on LinkedIn that you think has a nicer profile picture or something that you want to reach out to and have a better conversation with. To also then ultimately make your perspective on the general VC world or getting an investment better. I think in that way it's also really matchmaking. So you don't, you choose a VC that you like either to work in or to get a funding from. So
Mm,
you don't, of course, if you need funding, you're going to reach out to all of them. But if you have a choice, then make the right choice in being with the investor that you prefer to as well and to work with. And I
yeah.
think that really helps to maybe have a different perspective on how it is, because some VCs are indeed maybe very much like a boys club and in that way
Yeah.
and only for the ones. So definitely not disagreeing with that, but then choose the right one you want to work with or be with.
Yeah, and that those flavors are available.
Yeah, in
Is
my
what?
opinion, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do you meet them?
Startups?
Yeah, how do startups meet you? How do startups meet
Yeah, yeah,
these VCs
yeah.
that are, let's say, not the traditional kind?
Yeah, no, very good question. I think first of all, know what for you is not a traditional kind. Maybe I can say art is not a traditional kind, but maybe other people think that's not true. So I
Mm,
think really first know what kind of investor you want. Do you want a hands-on investor like us, or do you rather want to have a totally different kind of investor? So if you know that sort of type of profile,
hmm.
either if you want to work in it or get funding, then you can search for the ones. And there's so many events for founders, but also if you want to go into VC, where you
Hmm.
can meet them on like have a nice drink, those kind of things. A lot of people also reach out to me to have conversations to get into VC, to then have a chat with me and to see like what it is like and how it
Hmm.
goes.
Hmm.
So definitely, I think be open to ask as many questions or everyone around on the internet.
Sounds like a good plan. Uh,
It sounds quite easy, right? But I
yeah,
understand that it's also quite difficult to see like, hey, what kind of investors are there? Of course, there's like a huge list on the internet, and how do you know what is the right one? So
yeah, but I think it starts with creating sort of, let's say, profile of your ideal investors. Like what do you need, what do you want out of them?
exactly, yeah, and then start having conversations, and a conversation with a VC, in my opinion, is quite low key. You mostly talk to the analyst the first time, or maybe someone else. Depends a bit,
Hmm.
but that's just half an hour chat about your startup or some other way, which is very low key. So people should also realize that, I guess, in
Yeah.
our way.
Yeah, it also makes it easy, I think, to reach out, because
Yeah.
there's like it's not like you're straight away talking to a partner about getting that funding.
No, it's not indeed, right? So
Yeah,
therefore,
it also helps to practice your pitch, I think.
it does, yeah, yeah. So I indeed offer a lot of feedback and those kind of things. So and maybe even yeah. So I hope at least I come across as approachable and that people are like she just give me feedback and it's fine. So I really hope that I don't come across as the investor in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, every investor is always different in that as well, I guess.
Okay. And I was wondering, how do you see the VC landscape the evolving? Because you've been in there for a relatively short time, but you must have sort of future vision of where you want it to go.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Interesting. I think overall the interesting see we I see so many funds popping up, companies getting funding. Like there's so much money and there's so many so many companies funding other companies. So I think that's huge. I'm not sure if that will continue. Like a lot of, if that a lot of funds have now also difficulty with raising their next funds,
Yeah.
and people keep popping up new funds, because the funds that were there are not good enough. They have a different perspective, and at least in my opinion, I'm like, well, maybe we should look differently at that, and do we need so many different kinds of funds? Like, not saying that it's not allowed or it's not good, but I think that's what I question sometimes. Like, do we need so many different kinds of more and more funds? So I'm not sure if that will change, but maybe also looking at funds that don't raise other funds, that they might die at some point, and that there might be less VC or funds out there, of course.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how it will look like. It can definitely be that there will be, less funds, larger funds in that way.
How do you look at investing in female founders?
Particularly investing in female
Yeah.
founders, or
Do you see that pick up over the next couple of years?
yeah. Well, I can't see it not picking up. Like, it's such a, well, for me, it feels like becomes a more normal thing to do. And of course, there's still a lot of fuzz about it, and there's not enough, and etc. But I think we're getting at a point, or at least what I feel like is that, at least for us, we don't perceive anything differently. But of course, I can understand that female founders have experienced different things. So I truly hope, and I think as well, that will change towards the future. And it still also depends on the ideas that the female founders have, right? Or, so it's not that we should just fund every idea that the female founder has because it's a female founder.
Yeah.
I think we also really look at it like, is the idea in general, is that good? And does it has a good backbone? And I think that's what I hope it goes to. So yeah, my opinion would be that it will definitely increase, but I think it's also definitely something that we can do about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
just sitting back as investors and not doing anything about female founders or not focusing on it is not making anything better either.
For sure, for sure. So I'm on a mission to make inclusion in tech the new normal by the end of 2032. The way I operationalize this, by the way, is that I would like to have a situation where funding mixed teams is the norm by the end of 2032. So if you put it into, I never know how you call this in English, but in Dutch it's a normaalverdeling.
Yeah.
So 80% of the deals go to
Yeah.
mixed teams, and
Makes
then
sense.
there's always the outliers on both ends, which is fine. But my question is, what would be your advice to make that happen?
Yeah. Well, first of all, awesome mission. I think you've almost interviewed like 100 people, right?
Yeah,
Or maybe more.
yeah,
So I think that's like super cool that you've had so many of these amazing people interviewed, and it's like a great milestone to have in the first place, and that they all sort of contributed to your mission as well in that way by
yeah.
talking with you and by
Hmm.
agreeing to this as well. So I think there's so much value in these conversations in the first place,
Hmm.
to have. And I think overall, what I've recognized as well is that a lot of people no one really sees what you see, even if they see it too. So we have so many different backgrounds. We have, we're raised differently, and therefore we have a lot of different unique experiences,
Yeah,
which gives us a lot of wide range of perspective, which is very good and valuable. But it's also quite challenging to really understand each other's opinions, and sometimes, or at least that's what I feel like.
yeah,
And even among females, when I have conversations and regarding funding or any other topic, sometimes that people might sometimes also backfire each other. On certain types of opinions in a way that they really disagree with you, or that rather than trying
hmm,
to find common ground, well, we in the end we maybe are going for the same goal.
yeah,
And I think what, in my opinion, will be a really great thing is that if we really want to have more inclusion in tech or in general, and this
yeah,
is my opinion, to really listen to each other more with curiosity, and then next to that, still challenge your own assumptions, and combine that to really question, where we're going and how we should do this together with everyone. Also with the people that don't believe in inclusion, because I'm always very curious, how they perceive this entire thing, and not to say that I am then right and they are wrong, or but just to really view each other's opinions plain, because I think that maybe holds us back sometimes
Yeah.
by doing that. Not
Should I interview really opponents
well.
of
I was
inclusion?
I was
Because
thinking.
you're actually the second person in a week to tell me that.
Okay, well, I was thinking about this, and I honestly not sure if it would be fun for you to do so.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh no no no. Don't get me wrong. I'll have fun. I'm not sure if it
okay,
will contribute to the
that's good.
followers, but
No, so but I honestly, so maybe not. I think it would definitely be valuable, maybe not for you, but for everyone to indeed have the conversation, or to just know you don't have to interview them per se, but to at least know what they think and what their opinion is, to how they view this entire, you know, industry and system, and where we're going, and how they view how all we look at it. Um, I think that would be really valuable, and I think overall we should also not realize how far we've come to the point where we're at right now. This is maybe a random example, but when I was little, I played soccer,
yeah,
and I was playing in the first female team in my neighborhood.
yeah.
So, and now when I go to a match of a Dutch nationals women's team, the
Hmm.
stadium is like full with little girls going with their moms and dads. It's like awesome to see. And of course, we should not, lay back and not do anything, because, the stadium is full with little girls. And this is like another example. But I think we should also be proud of ourselves where we've come at this point, and then next to that, believe in what we can make happen in the future
Yeah,
of what
yeah,
we've already become.
yeah. Yeah, there's indeed a lot of progress already made, and it's also good to emphasize that.
Yeah, but from that, go even more further, and yeah,
Yeah,
improve on that way.
sounds like a great place to close. Michelle
Awesome.
Ter Laak, thanks very much for an amazing conversation. If people want to learn more about you and about Arches Capital, where can they go?
Yeah, definitely. So if you want to know more about me, just go on my LinkedIn, send a message or anything. If you're always free for a coffee, if you need anything help on VC or funding, or Arches Capital, where you see your general mail info at, or the fund me mail for more information.
Cool. And we'll include those links in the show notes. So, with
Awesome.
that, thanks again for an amazing conversation. Listeners, thank you very much for listening. And until the next episode, keep being awesome. Well, that's a wrap for episode 93 of Women Disrupting Tech, about the message that changed the future of Word with Esther Bisschop. Esther and I hope that you've enjoyed our conversation as much as we did. And if you'd like to learn more or connect with Esther, please check out the links in the show notes. As usual, you can find the show notes at womendisruptingtech, all one word, .blog. On the same website, you can also become a member of the Women Disrupting Tech community. Members get early access to new episodes and get an exclusive email with my personal reflections on each of the episodes, including practical takeaways and magical moments. So check out the show notes for a link. When you enjoy listening to this podcast, please subscribe or follow the show on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or YouTube. Following Women Disrupting Tech is a great zero-cost way to support my guests in making inclusion in tech the new normal by the end of 2032. You can also follow us on social media. Please check out at The True Story Company on LinkedIn and Instagram, and at Women Disrupting Tech on YouTube and Substack. Finally, if you want to connect with me, please reach out to me via dirkjan at womendisruptingtech.blog, or send me a DM on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, simply search for my name, Dirk-Jan Hupkes, and you'll find me. With that, I wish you a wonderful day. I hope to see you in the next episode, and until then, keep being awesome.